Welcome to Veteach. Veteach is India's first learning platform especially designed for Btech students. On this platform, we provide university-specific video lessons for all Btech branches. Along with this, we provide training for campus recruitment, Ielts, TOEFL, etc. Whichever state or university you may belong to, Veteach will empower you. Please install our app and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This particular passage is about anesthesiology. Let's see the questions first and see what kind of questions we are being asked. Questions 29 to 34 are true or false questions. Dioscorides' book De Materia Medica fell out of use after 60 AD. Mandragora was used as an anesthetic during the Middle Ages. Nitrous oxide can cause the user to both laugh and cry. During the second half of the 19th century, most dentists used anesthesia. Anesthesiologists in the United States are required to have 12 years of education and training. There are fewer anesthesiologists in the United States now than there were 40 years ago. Questions 35 to 40 are match each fact about anesthesia with the type of anesthetic that it refers to. Straightforward it is. Let's go back to the passage. Before diving into the passage, as the name suggests, this passage is extracted from some medical journal. A student would feel confident while solving these type of questions if he is already acquainted with the terminology. It doesn't mean that you have to read a medical journal, but what you can do is solve passages on diversified topics that will make you comfortable with technical terminology while solving the passages. On our platform, we've created a test of series on diversified topics which include current events, sociology, economy, medicine, science and technology, philosophy and psychology, political science, and abstract passages. If you solve our test series, you will get acquainted with the possible terminology that you might encounter in the actual test. Please install our app and avail the benefits. Now let's dive into the passage. Since the beginning of time, man has sought natural remedies for pain. Between 40 and 60 AD, Greek physician Dioscorides traveled with Roman armies studying the medicinal properties of plants and minerals. His book De Materia Medica, written in 5 volumes and translated into at least 7 languages, was the primary reference source for physicians for over 16 centuries. The field of anesthesiology, which was once nothing more than a list of medicinal plants and makeshift remedies, has grown into one of the most important fields in medicine. The first para is about history of anesthesiology and a book written by a Greek physician called Dioscorides, which has become a primary source for physicians over 16 centuries. Let's move on to the next paragraph. Moving on, many of the early pain relievers were based on myth and did little to relieve the suffering of an ill or injured person. The mandragora, now known as the mandrake plant, was one of the first plants to be used as anesthetic. Due to the apparent screaming that the plant made as it was pulled from the ground, people in the Middle Ages believed that the person who removed the mandrake from the earth would either die or go insane. This superstition may have resulted because the split root of the mandrake resembled the human form. In order to pull the root from the ground, the plant collector would loosen it and tie the stem to an animal. It was believed that the safest time to uproot a mandrake was in the moonlight and the best animal to use was a black dog. In his manual, Dioscorides suggested boiling the root with wine and having a man drink the potion to remove sensation before cutting his flesh or burning his skin. Opium and Indian hemp were later used to induce sleep before a painful procedure or to relieve the pain of an illness. Other remedies such as cocaine did more harm to the patient than good, as people died from their addictions. President Ulysses S. Grant became addicted to cocaine before he died of throat cancer in 1885. In paragraph 2, the author describes about a plant called mandragora, which is an anesthetic, and the superstition surrounding it. It was said that people die if they remove it from the ground. Dioscorides in his book wrote how to use mandragoras as a pain reliever before cutting flesh. Subsequently, opium, Indian hemp and cocaine were used to induce sleep before a painful procedure. Moving on to the next paragraph. The modern field of anesthetics dates to the incident when nitrous oxide, more commonly known as laughing gas, was accidentally discovered. Humphrey Davy, the inventor of the miner's lamp, discovered that inhaling the toxic compound caused a strange euphoria, followed by fits of laughter, tears, and sometimes unconsciousness. US dentist Horace Wells was the first on record to experiment with laughing gas, which he used in 1844 to relieve pain during a tooth extraction. 2 years later, Dr. William Morton created the first anesthetic machine. This apparatus was a simple glass globe containing an ether-soaked sponge. Morton considered ether a good alternative to nitrous oxide because the numbing effect lasted considerably longer. His apparatus allowed the patient to inhale vapors whenever the pain became unbearable. In 1846, during a trial experiment in Boston, a tumor was successfully removed from a man's jaw area while he was anesthetized with Morton's machine. This para discusses about nitrous oxide, which is also called as laughing gas, which was used as an anesthetic. Later, Dr. William Morton discovered an anesthetic machine in which he used ether-soaked sponge, which was found out to be a good alternative to nitrous oxide, and this ether has numbing effect which lasted more than nitrous oxide. Moving on to the next paragraph. The first use of anesthesia in the obstetric field occurred in Scotland by Dr. James Simpson. Instead of ether, which he considered irritating to the eyes, Simpson administered chloroform to reduce the pain of childbirth. Simpson sprinkled chloroform on a handkerchief and allowed laboring women to inhale the fumes at their own discretion. In 1853, Queen Victoria agreed to use chloroform during the birth of her 8th child. Soon, the use of chloroform during childbirth was both acceptable and fashionable. However, as chloroform became a more popular anesthetic, knowledge of its toxicity surfaced and it was soon obsolete. Now, what is the meaning of discretion and obsolete? Discretion is the freedom to choose. Liberty. Obsolete is no more in use. It's no more in use. This paragraph talks about how Dr. Simpson used chloroform to reduce pain in childbirth. He replaced ether with chloroform as ether had an irritating effect on eyes. This became very successful and use of chloroform became acceptable and fashionable. But when negative effects of chloroform were known, it was outdated. Moving on to para 5. After World War II, numerous developments were made in the field of anesthetics. Surgical procedures that had been unthinkable were being performed with little or no pain felt by the patient. Rather than physicians or nurses who administered pain relief as part of the profession, anesthesiologists became specialists in suppressing consciousness and alleviating pain. Anesthesiologists today are classified as perioperative physicians, meaning they take care of a patient before, during, and after surgical procedures. It takes over 8 years of schooling and 4 years of residency until an anesthesiologist is prepared to practice in the United States. Over 8 years of schooling and 4 years of residency. These experts are trained to administer 3 different types of anesthetics: general, local, and regional. General anesthetic is used to put a patient into a temporary state of unconsciousness. Local anesthetic is used only at the affected site and causes a loss of sensation. Regional anesthetic is used to block the sensation and possibly the movement of a larger portion of the body. As well as controlling the levels of pain for the patient before and throughout an operation, anesthesiologists are responsible for monitoring, controlling the patient's vital functions during the procedure, and assessing the medical needs in the post-operative room. In paragraph 5, it is mentioned that after World War II, there was considerable improvement in the field of anesthetics and new profession called anesthesiologist started. At present, these anesthesiologists take care of patients round the clock, monitoring the vital functions after the surgical procedure. Further, this paragraph gives information about local anesthesia, regional anesthesia, and general anesthesia. Moving on to the last para, which is 6. The number of anesthesiologists in the United States has more than doubled since the 1970s, as has the improvement and success of operative care. In addition, complications from anesthesiology have declined dramatically. Over 40 million anesthetics are administered in the United States each year, with only 1 in 250,000 causing death. This paragraph talks about how the number of anesthesiologists have doubled since the 1970s and the success of anesthesia in the US. Let's move on to solving questions. First set of questions 29 to 34. True or false? 29. Dioscorides' book De Materia Medica fell out of use after 60 AD. And the answer to this question is false because it is given in the first para that 5 volumes and translated into at least 7 languages was the primary reference source for physicians for over 16 centuries. So the given statement is false. Question number 30. Mandragora was used as an anesthetic during the Middle Ages. And the answer to this question is true and it is given in the second para. Question number 31. Nitrous oxide can cause the user to both laugh and cry. And the answer is true. We all know that it is also called as a laughing gas. It can also make us cry because it is given in the para 3 that it irritates our eyes. So the answer is true. Question 32. During the second half of the 19th century, most dentists used anesthesia. And the answer is not given because in the paragraph there is nowhere that is mentioned. No. Question number 33. Anesthesiologists in the United States are required to have 12 years of education and training. And the answer is true. And this information is given in the paragraph 5. In the para, it is mentioned that it takes over 8 years of schooling and 4 years of residency. So over 12 years is the answer. Question 34. There are fewer anesthesiologists in the United States now than there were 40 years ago. And the answer to this question is false because it's given in the last paragraph that since the number of anesthesiologists has been more than doubled since the 1970s. Questions 35 to 40. We have to match each fact about anesthesia with the type of anesthetic that it refers to. Question 35. Used by sprinkling on a handkerchief. And the answer to this question is chloroform, which is option D, which is given in the fourth paragraph. Simpson sprinkled chloroform on a handkerchief. So the answer is D, chloroform. 36. Used on only one specific part of the body. And the answer is local anesthesia, B. And this is given in the paragraph 5. Local anesthetic is used only at the affected site and causes a loss of sensation. Question 37. Used by boiling with wine. Answer is H, which is given in paragraph 2. Suggested boiling the root with wine. Question 38. Used first during a dental procedure. And the answer is nitrous oxide, which is also called as laughing gas. This piece of information is present in the para 3. Horace Wells was the first on record to experiment with laughing gas, which is used in 1844 to relieve pain during a tooth extraction. Question number 39. Used to stop feeling over a larger area of the body. And the answer to this question is C, regional anesthetic. This statement is given in para 5. Regional anesthetic is used to block the sensation and possibly the movement of a larger portion of the body. Last question, question 40. Used in the first anesthetic machine. And the answer to this question is E, ether. This piece of information is given in the para 3. This apparatus was a simple glass globe containing an ether soaked sponge. That's it for today, guys. Please come back for more videos. Thank you.